Hey guys, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty for the top 3 and bottom 3 comic books of the month, and this will be for July 5th of 2022. Alright guys, let's dive in. If you hear any, there we go, that's my papers, my notes, because I take notes on all this because I can't remember all this. So anyway, this week I read 12 comic books that are currently this week. I have read a lot of back issues too, but I don't count those. And we're going to do the top 3 and the bottom 3. I'm going to say this week was a pretty strong week. I think last week, if I recall, was a bit middle ho-hum, nothing too spectacular. But this week, I think, came out swinging. It came out stronger than what before. So I think there's going to be a lot to read here if you're enjoying these, or maybe time to jump on some. So anyway, we're going to start with the number 3. The number 3 book I thought was Dark Crisis number 2. I gave it an 8 out of 10. An 8 out of 10 for Dark Crisis number 2. I thought that it was a good issue. It did a really good job of showing Nightwing and Nightwing's character. I really appreciate a story when they write characters in character. I hate it when the character is thrown aside just to fit a narrative, and they didn't really do it here. I think I like that. I like the way this story is going so far. I thought the art was really good too, and you know what? I really like the ending. It's time for the Green Lantern Corps to make an entrance. I really like the Green Lantern Corps, and I think it's good that it's something so big they should have a hand in, and it's about time we seen them in it. Let's give Hal Jordan some credit, shall we? Anyway, let's move on to my number 2. Another strong showing here, DC vs. Vampires number 7. Once again, that's DC vs. Vampires number 7. I gave it an 8.3 out of 10. DC, wow. DC's hitting some good ones here. I thought the art was fitting for the title. Not my favorite art style, but for this particular title, I like it. The story continues to be interesting. And you know, one of the things I really like about this series is no one is safe. And if you haven't been reading this one might be one you want to go back to. Get the first issue and start reading it. It has a lot of twists and turns. It keeps it interesting. And every issue of this series has failed to disappoint. What I mean by that is I've enjoyed every single one. Sometimes I just get in this, I don't know, if you've been reading as long as I have, you're waiting for the shoe to drop and go, oh, okay, there's the crap issue out of it, or this was a real dud. This really hasn't had it. I've really been enjoying this series every issue, and I think it would be definitely worth your money and your time so far. And the number 1, this one is definitely a jumping on point if you have not been reading the series. And you might not have, because a lot of people have jumped off. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have stayed on too. It's a popular series, and that's Batman issue 125. This is a new story arc, a new creative team, and I really think they're doing good. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, which might be the highest score I've given since I've started this series. I grade very hard. 7 is good. And any past that has to be a lot better than that. So anyway, Batman 125, I really like the cover of this issue. I thought that cover was strong. It hooked me in right away. The Batman story is off to a strong start. I really do enjoy where that story is going. I think the art was solid. And once again, this is a story that makes me want to read more. That's one of the ways I use my grading scale, is if it's like an 8 or higher, it means I want to read more of this. It's got me intrigued. The Catwoman side story is also really good in this. It makes me want to, once again, read more, but not just that. It makes me want to check out the Catwoman series. I've been hearing a lot of good about it, but I haven't given it a shot myself. Well, this issue, with this side story, really makes me go, maybe I should be diving into that Catwoman story as well. So I think that's really solid. Once again, an 8.5 out of 10. Solid. If you haven't been reading Batman, this is the great time to start, because it's the start of a story arc, and it's a start of a new direction with a new team, and a great place to just pick it up and go, so you don't have to worry about missing too much from the past. Alright, now we're going to hit the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the 12 books that I read. I'm going to be honest with you, there's nothing really that bad here. This was a good week. So my number 3 was Batman Beyond Neo Year number 4. I gave it a 7.1 out of 10. Once again, not a bad score. The art was good. I thought it had a really good, entertaining fight in it. I think sometimes comics need that. Sometimes we're getting too much filler, too much padding, and a lot of blah blah blah. People forget that this is a visual medium. Comic books need some action sometimes, and not all of them do. I mean, I understand there's stories that don't, but when it's a superhero book, it needs the action. And this one did not fail to deliver on that. I really enjoyed this issue, and I do want to read the next ones. Once again, a 7.1 out of 10, and that's for the bottom of the 3, I might add. So that's a good, strong showing. The next one, number 2, Jane Foster, The Mighty Thor. Number 2, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Now, don't bring out the pitchforks just yet, okay? As I said, this one is one of the weaker ones. The art was okay. So there we have that. And I will say, and the reason I think it got a 7.10, it almost was in the 6s. It almost was there. But this was a better issue than I think than the first issue. I enjoyed it more. But the best I can say about this issue is decent. And so unless you are absolutely a Jane Foster fan, you can skip this one. You can skip this series. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not a fan of her being Thor. Once again, it's not a sexist thing, okay? It's just his name is Thor. I know other characters have been under the name of Thor, but remember, like for example, Eric Masterson, he was using the name Thor, but he knew he was not Thor. Okay, he knew that, and other people knew too. They called him that because it was a hero name, but eventually it became his own hero too. And he didn't just shoved in and was super great at everything. He was a hero that had to struggle to get there, and we didn't really see that with Jane. Jane was just pretty much awesome right from the beginning almost. But once again, it's my thoughts. I would skip that one personally. Not that great. And the number 1, and this one really disappointed me because I was somewhat enjoying this series all the way up to its very end. And the very end just sort of was one of those when it fizzled out with a fart. And darn it, as I was saying earlier, you know, sometimes you get a little waiting for that shoe to drop for the one to drop. And this one was on the ending. And it was Suicide Squad Blaze number 3. I gave it a 6.9 out of 10. Let me get to my notes here. Suicide Squad Blaze number 3. Here it is. As I wrote here, the end was okay, and it was predictable though. You seen what was gonna happen. It just that sort of killed it right there. It was so darn predictable at the ending, and the art and all throughout the series could be better in my opinion. I know they were going for a dark and gritty look, a dark and gritty, because I'm Batman, that kind of thing, right? But it didn't do it for me. When you can't quite tell what's going on in the panel, I think your art is not good enough. And I'm not blaming the penciler for sure. It could be the coloring, it could be the inking, but it was that way all the way through. It's just sometimes there'd be a panel you're like, what the heck is going on here? I hate that when you can't figure out what's going on in a panel. That's when, in my opinion, when the art fails, even though it's being stylistic. And overall, I just thought the ending was underwhelming. Just didn't do it. It was like, huh, okay, so that was it. So I'm glad this wasn't really a main continuity story. It failed. It had me interested, it had me reading through, and then at the end it flopped. So, sad to say. Now, let me talk really quickly about the other issues that did not make the top 3. Now, before I do, I just want to say thank you for these people here. Without these people, this would not be possible. These people are wonderful. They help support the channel. There's all kinds of ways you can help support this channel with Patreon, Subscribe Star. Also, you're going to see there's a link there for that you can do a one-time donation if you want. Those are really helpful too. Or you can even get yourself some merch from Redbubble. You can go there with that link for Redbubble. You can get yourself some Captain Frugal merch. So you can get a cool Captain Frugal shirt, coffee cup, whatever makes you happy, and that would be absolutely wonderful. Now, with that said, let's look at some of these other books that I read that didn't make quite the top and bottom 3. And one was Batman Killing Time, number 5 of 6. I gave it a 7.2 out of 10. I thought the art was good. The story is a bit padded, though, on this issue. And I thought the intro was way too long. I get what they're trying to show. There was a lot of death and a big fight. It just went way too many pages for that. They could have done it probably with 1 or 2 pages less. There was too many pages about describing that. Let's see here. Flipping my pages of my notes here. The next one that did not make it was Flashpoint Beyond, 3 of 6. Very strong issue. I gave it a 7.3 out of 10. I thought it was interesting. The art continues to be good, and I am definitely interested in this storyline. I thought this was going to make the top 3. I was surprised that it didn't. The next one there is Amazing Spider-Man number 5. Another strong issue with a 7.4 out of 10. The art was decent. I'm not a big fan of this art style, but his art, Maria Jr.'s art on Spider-Man seems to work. I don't like him on pretty much any other title. I don't like him on Batman. I don't like him on Superman. I don't like him on Captain America. But for some reason, Spider-Man, he seems passable. But it's just never my favorite, though. A lot of other artists I'd rather see on Spider-Man. No offense there. It seems like his art, and don't get me wrong, it's probably his style for a reason, is very quick and easier to draw. It's not as highly detailed. It's just his style. And hey, if you love it, that's okay too. That's perfectly fine. I always liked his dad's art better, though. Alright, so I also really liked the issue, though. I thought it was nice having Spider-Man fighting street-level crime again. And it's really a good street-level story going on so far. And I just like the direction of the story. And the Black Cat checking in on Peter is a great thing, too. Especially with what they've got going on right now, where Mary Jane doesn't seem to be into him anymore. And they haven't really said why yet, so I think that's going to be the flop of the story, though, there, to be honest with you, is when we find out what happened. That's probably going to be the real disappointing thing there. But I do like, too, that we've seen Aunt May at the end and them getting together. So, because it made it sound before like Aunt May was mad at him or something. She's not. She's still there with open arms because she's like his mother. And I think that's very fitting. You know, we have the prodigal son here going. So that was a good one. I give that issue a 7.4. Now, the next one here, this one surprised me. And that was Avengers Forever, number 7. I gave it a 7.15. Higher than I expected. The art was good. The story was interesting. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this series at all, where it's been going. It's just, I'm a little tired of the multiverse thing. And it partly is because I'm biased. We had all Steve Rogers here. Steve Rogers, so, in different takes. But I thought the actual story was interesting. You know, I think this was quite a likable tale. And this is probably my favorite issue so far through the 7 issues. And the reason one of the reasons I liked it, besides my selective bias here, is because they're all locked up in this room, and it's sort of like a trial how to get out. And they had to work together to get out. And then when they do finally get out by working together, because these are alternate versions of Steve Rogers. We get more of how it's connecting to the story. So I don't want to give that away. But this was a pretty good read. I'm not going to say run out and start getting Avengers Forever because of this issue, though. It's got to continue being good from here, and I don't have high hopes for that. So only time will tell on that one. The next one, this was a strong one, too. Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty, number 2. This series, so far, is surprising me. I expected this to be a complete dud and piss me off about Captain America, but I gave this a 7.7 out of 10. I thought the art was good. The story is I'm telling you, much better than I expected. I've actually been enjoying this series. I expected it to be all Steve Rogers deconstruction, and it really hasn't so far, and so that's nice. They're giving him more background characters, and that's something that Steve Rogers needs, is good background characters. Every character does, but think about Steve Rogers. He's had some great ones, Nick Fury, but what have they done with Nick Fury? They sort of got rid of him, right? Now we got Marcus Fury. We do have Sharon, and that's great, and he has Bucky, which is great, or I should say Winter Soldier or Rick Jones, whatever you want me to call him. But he's really had a lack of really strong supportive background characters. I think we're maybe starting to build some here. Granted, it'll probably only be for the story arc until another team takes over, but it's been good. So that's nice. It's an interesting last page, too, of this series, though I don't like the fact of bringing this character back all the time. But we're seeing it again. I'm not going to tell you who it is because I want you to read it. But this might be a time to jump on this series. It's only issue 2, and it has been strong. 7.7. Next one, Ghost Rider number 4. I gave it a 7.33 out of 10. The art continues to be solid in this series. The story continues to be interesting as well. And I want to see what is next going on with Johnny Blaze. You know, with all the pushes of the other Ghost Riders. We had Danny Ketch, which I always thought was okay. And then we have Robbie Reyes, which gets a lot of attention because they're really trying to push him because of diversity reasons and things. And hey, more power to you, I guess, whatever. But Johnny Blaze, I think, needs more attention. He's like our original, well, he's not the original because they made it like with the backstory of more others besides him, but he's the one we really started with. And I like the direction of this. This is, I think, the character at his best. Because he's sort of a tormented person, and we get to see that in this series. I think the character sticks out. It's an interesting read, and if you haven't been checking it out, this is probably one that you would like, especially if you like the dark kind of stuff. Alright, I believe that's all 12 of them, so thank you for sticking with me for this long. I really do appreciate it. Let me know what your thoughts are. What should I have read? What were your, are you glad I didn't read? Or, you know, what did I miss? Did I miss something, a gem here? I don't mind being told that. It gets me an idea to check out some of these sometimes. and but there's only so many hours in a day, so I have to try to get these done and as quick as possible. And this one's being released a little late because, well, as of right now, I still do not have internet. My internet went out last night and has not been back yet. So I'm trying to put this together and get it up as soon as possible, when hopefully the internet rise and our internet provider can give me no information. They don't have a clue yet of what went wrong. So, fun there. So thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it, everybody. And until next time, keep it frugal.